Welcome back to Ben's Bench. Today's topic is insurance. Now, pretty much any insurance is going to work the way I describe in this video, whether it's your health insurance, car insurance, homeowners, whatever. But I'm going to focus mostly on health insurance. And it's going to be a very general overview, not a super deep dive into the topic. I chose this topic because in response to calls for single payer, that is, government-funded healthcare, I hear people say, I don't want to cover other people's healthcare expenses. And they don't realize that by participating in insurance, they already do. To give you an idea of how private insurance works, I'm going to use imagery and an analogy here. So imagine a pool. And every month, the people who belong to that pool club bring a glass of water. And they go to the edge of the pool and they dump this water into the pool. Now, this is just one glass. It makes very little difference. You wouldn't even be able to see the contribution in the overall pool just from this one glass. But when you have thousands and thousands of people pouring one glass of water into the pool, that is quite a lot. Now, the water that each person pours into the pool then just becomes part of the rest of it. It would be impossible to dump this water into the pool and then get it back. I could refill the glass from the pool, but there's no way that I could get only this exact water back out of the pool. It's now just part of the whole. So that's how water gets into the pool. It comes out of the pool in two ways. First of all, we can say the pool is constantly draining because the insurance company has overhead and operating costs, and I'm not really going to get into that other than to say that it's happening. And the other way, of course, is when the contributors, the people who are bringing their glass of water every month, need to take some water out to cover their expenses. So when someone needs some water out of the pool, whether it's for some sort of medical care in the case of health insurance, or they've been in a car accident, they've had a house fire, whatever, they bring a bucket. This bucket holds more water than the total amount that they've poured in glasses since they've been contributing. And, like I said before, all the water in the pool is just all mixed together. So they're getting probably a little bit of their own water in here, but they're getting a little bit of everybody else's water too. You see, if everyone just contributed to their own individual pool, or, at this point, it would just be an individual bucket, that wouldn't be insurance. That would just be a savings account, essentially. So you put money into the savings account, and then when you need healthcare or car repairs or whatever, you take money out of that savings account. The problem there, of course, is that if you need all of that money at once and it doesn't cover everything, you're stuck paying the rest out of pocket. With insurance, you just walk up to the pool and scoop out the water and take it away. Now, the reason I'm talking about this today is because when you have these privately run pools that are owned by companies, those companies want to keep that pool as full as it can possibly be. So, of course, it's draining to cover the overhead, like I said before, but the company is also going to put certain barriers or conditions in place to stop people from taking too much water out so that they can keep as much water coming in as possible and as little going out as possible. For example, the company will say that before you can start taking water out of the pool, you have to use a certain amount of your own water. That's called the deductible. They'll say that every time you bring your trusty bucket to the side of the pool to get some water out, there has to be some in it. That's your copay. And before the Affordable Care Act, there were other barriers in place, like you can only use a certain amount of water over the course of your lifetime, and then you can't take any more. Those are the lifetime limits. They're not prohibited. And another old device was to say you can't use the water from this pool for any problems that existed before you started contributing to it. That was the denial of pre-existing conditions. A government-funded pool would be different in a lot of ways. First of all, it would be a much bigger pool, and everyone would be bringing their monthly glass of water and throwing it in. And of course, it would also have overhead. Any program is going to have some operating costs. But the government isn't a company. It doesn't have a duty to shareholders to increase profits. So it doesn't need to keep the pool full all the time. There would just need to be enough water in it to cover any costs that come up. So essentially, it doesn't need to be a completely full pool all the way up to the top. It just has to have enough in it to cover what's needed at the time. Basically, it just needs to not be bone dry. Another difference is that most insurance companies charge a flat premium to everyone who participates in the plan. So all of the members are bringing a glass of water the same size to the pool. Under a government-funded system, it would be supported by a tax, and tax is proportional to income. So, sure, some people are going to throw in this much. There might be some people who make a lot less money, have a lot less spare water, so they can only add a shot glass. Or for some people, it might be a whiskey glass. For some people, it might be a big growler. And for some people, maybe it is a whole bucket. But there are plenty of publicly funded programs already. The fire department is publicly funded, and people who pay less money in taxes, if they have a fire in their house, they get the same fire department, whether they're living in publicly funded housing or their own mansion. So a publicly funded healthcare system would really be no different from the publicly funded fire departments, the publicly funded police departments. The police don't do an income check before they respond to a call. And of course, I could go on. You don't have to show tax receipts to drive on public roads. There are so many examples of publicly funded things that we all use every day and don't question. And they're paid for by tax dollars, so whatever people can contribute. The point here is that the argument against single-payer healthcare, not wanting to pay for other people's medical expenses, has two flaws. Number one, the insurance system already works that way. It's all a group-funded pool, and all that water is indistinguishable. So when you get your bucket, you're getting water from your own glasses, you're getting water from other people's glasses. It's all just a mishmash at that point. And of course, the second flaw in that logic is the I don't want to pay for somebody else's insert service here. We all already do that. We have publicly funded roads, fire departments, police departments, schools, welfare programs for people who need things like food stamps or Section 8 housing. We're all already paying for things for other people. So the argument of not wanting to pay for other people's health care, that would really just be one more thing that we would all jointly contribute to. Now, like I said before, this hasn't been a deep dive into how insurance works or how a publicly funded healthcare system would work. Of course, there are nuances and logistics that would need to be ironed out. Any program has those things. The point that I'm making is that the objection often given has a couple of flaws. Now, the United States is a democracy. So if after watching this video, you think that single-payer healthcare would be a great idea and a benefit for all, you can contact your representatives either in the state or the federal legislature and explain why you think it's a good idea. And if you still think it's a bad idea, then you don't have to do anything, and the system will remain as it is. I hope you've learned something in today's episode, and until next time, we're adjourned.